Caligula. He's the poster boy for sociopaths everywhere. The young Roman emperor had a fearsome reputation as a sadist, murderer, and raving lunatic.
The emperor decided that he's going to declare war on the sea god Neptune. It's mad!
There are stories of women and children, innocents, being thrown off the cliffs to their death.
The Emperor Caligula. He becomes the supreme ruler of Rome at the age of 24. He's in power for less than 4 years before being assassinated. In that brief time, he commits unthinkable atrocities. Acts of cruelty that will ensure him a place in history. As a madman. The hunt for evidence begins in Caligula's childhood. He is born in 12 AD and given the grand name Gaius Germanicus Augustus.
Gaius was the son of Germanicus, golden boy of the imperial family, who was essentially a military hero talked about in the same breath as Alexander the Great. And basically, Gaius is an army brat.
Young Gaius spends his early years living in a place similar to this, a Roman army fort.
He parades around the camp in a tiny military costume made for him by his mother. And the soldiers love it. They even give him a nickname, Caligula, which means little boots, after the tiny military sandals he used to wear.
For the next 12 years, Caligula lives in isolation with his grandmother. Nothing is written about this period of his life. "19-year-old Caligula arrives at the island hideaway of the feared and depraved Emperor Tiberius. Only the ruins survive today, but what Caligula sees is a towering fortress. It's a nightmarish place, the site of unspeakable atrocities. Caligula now gets a masterclass in depravity.
Caligula has to go along with whatever takes place in this villa.
Capri has an overwhelming effect on Caligula. He learns that life is worthless. He learns that the purpose of life is the pursuit of pure pleasure. And he learns to marry pure pleasure with violence.
Caligula sinks ever deeper into this twisted mental state.
He now begins to identify with Tiberius. I want to be like Tiberius.
He now seeks what Tiberius has, total power. Rule of the empire passes to him and to Tiberius's grandson Gemellus, but Gemellus is only 18, too young to share power. AD 37. Caligula is 24 and has the world by the tail.
Tiberius is dead. Caligula is now the emperor. He makes his way to Rome on this very road, on the Via Appia. And the crowds turned out. They were excited. They were jubilant. They were ready to see a new beginning and their new emperor.
For 8 months, it's all sweetness and light. Then Caligula abruptly changes. Almost overnight, the benevolent dictator becomes a raging monster, a Tiberius clone. He turns on his people in an orgy of violence. Caligula's rap sheet is shocking. He holds magnificent feasts and has criminals beheaded between courses. And while his nervous guests knock back the wine, he rapes their wives. High-ranking Romans are flogged and executed. It's a public spectacle and a warning. He even slaughters members of his own family. The horror stories are so extreme, they're hard to believe.
Caligula realizes, more than ever, Gemellus is only a heartbeat away from the throne. He is his co-ruler, although Caligula was the favorite of Tiberius. He has to be eliminated. Caligula accuses Gemellus of treason. The punishment for this is death.
Rome, AD 37. 25-year-old Caligula has suddenly become a violent and ruthless dictator. 2,000-year-old historical sources blame this change in his behavior on a mysterious illness.
Once the patient starts getting really lead intoxicated or lead poisoning, then you start seeing the altered personalities, the delirium, the confusion. Could it have accounted for the personality changes, deficits, the radical behavior of Caligula? I think so.
But Caligula isn't the only Roman who drinks a lot of wine. You'd assume many would get lead poisoning. One historical account provides an explanation. Philo writes that after taking power, Caligula's drinking becomes excessive, even by loose Roman standards. The lead he's consumed adds a new layer to his already disturbed personality.
Caligula is not insane. He's not psychotic. He was able to plan, lead, and execute a complicated military operation. This was a detailed, goal-directed endeavor. And in psychosis, what you do not see is goal-directedness.
So working out a plan to invade Britain, including the construction of forts, indicates the ruthless, tyrannical Caligula is actually sane. These are the passages Caligula actually walks down on the last day of his violent life. In the shadows wait two bodyguards, Cassius Caria, who Caligula mercilessly mocked, and Sabinus, whose wife Caligula raped.
And that is when the conspirators strike. Cassius Caria and Sabinus find him here, and they strike the blow. Caligula dies on the ground in a pool of blood.
Caligula has been emperor for 3 years, 8 months, and 10 days. He is just 29 years old. In that brief time, he turned the Romans' love for him into hate and revulsion. He lived for bloody violence. He enjoyed watching the massacre of women and children. He made the bloody and cruel gladiator games bloodier. He raped and he murdered.